Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruver. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I'm Kathy Gruver, and we are excited to be back with you. And today we're going to be talking about abundance.
Oh, you I was like, are you going to make up a new word like that's manifesting and abundance together, like man abundance? Man abundance.
Well, you know, I was single for a while, and I was looking for
You were looking for man abundance?
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe we should start again.
You want to start again? I thought it was real raw and unscripted.
Okay, hey, so today, welcome back. We're talking about abundance.
Abundance.
With buns or dancing. We're talking about bringing things to us. And it's sort of fun. The reason we're deciding to do this episode is I'm in the middle of a 21-day abundance manifestation, meditation journey sort of thing. So I've been keeping my little notebook of stuff, and there's some really amazing exercises in there that even if you're not doing the 21 days of abundance, I really recommend some of these exercises. They're kind of cool. So that's what we thought we'd talk about today.
Yeah, because we know that a lot of people, I mean, we're both trying to manifest certain things, have an abundant lifestyle, and assuming most of you are trying to do that as well. And I know it's not as simple as some people try to make it seem, right? I mean, there's videos and other stuff out there, and they're like, you know, all you have to do is close your eyes and think, and all of a sudden the Ferrari shows up. Hey, folks, it ain't that easy. Oh, is that what you focus on Ferrari right now? No, you're falling asleep, right? So
long night.
It's not as easy as that, because you have to actually do some work as well, right? Because when you think about like the laws, you know, a lot of people talk about the law of attraction, but they don't ever talk about the law of action, which is you actually got to get your butt up and do some work as well. And so some of the stuff that we're talking about is some of that action that you can take to be able to help you in this. Right. And it does sometimes take some time, because it's based on the universe's timeline, not ours. And so a lot of people that are trying to manifest or have abundance in their life probably give up too soon.
I agree.
Because they, you know, and then they say, oh, well, it doesn't work. And it's like, you have to give this some time, and you have to get in alignment. And until you do that, you know, the floodgates aren't going to open. So yeah, maybe share some of the things that you're going through in this 21-day challenge, because I think they're good exercises or practices for us to kind of get into to be able to help us out.
Yeah, you know, one of the things it has us do, so every day there's an affirmation. Every day there's like a written journaling exercise to do. And then every day there is a video. It's actually Deepak Chopra's 21-day abundance. So it's a video of just silent meditation, but it also includes a Sanskrit mantra. So some of the affirmations, because I've been putting them on Post-its on my desk, and I'm just putting one over the other. The first one was, today I behold all the abundance that surrounds me. And then the next day was, I create my personal abundance from an infinite source. Today, I focus on what I want to attract into my life. Today, I embrace my potential to be, do, and have whatever I can dream. That one. And
there's be, do, and have again, right? That we've talked about before too.
Absolutely. So what I really appreciate about those is they're direct, they're short. I write them in my little notebook. I also put them on my desk, so that even if I'm not looking at them and thinking consciously about them, those things that are in our environment are still sinking in, and they're still making a change with us. And I really like the one, it's like, I have the potential to be, do, and have whatever I can dream. Whatever we can think of, whatever we can conjure in our brains, we can manifest into our lives. Now, I know not everyone believes that. It's this sort of bumper sticker wisdom, airy-fairy sort of thing, but you know what, there's no side effects, and it's free, and you don't need a prescription. And at the very least, doing affirmations like this shifts your perspective, blocks out that negative stuff, decreases stress, so you're going to be more apt to be in a place to accept these things when they come, or to find them when they show up. And I think that's half the battle.
Well, so you shared kind of what some of these affirmations actually are. So in the 21-day program you're going through, I know you mentioned you have a journal and some other stuff too. So how are you incorporating these affirmations? Is this something that you're journaling on too? Is the journaling different? Are you saying them out loud? Are you thinking of them during the meditation? How is that part kind of getting incorporated in?
Yeah, so I repeat them a couple of times. I write them down on the Post-it on my desk. I write them for that day in my little notebook. And it's so funny because I have, I go to so many conferences and I have a stack of Post-it notes, a stack of list pieces of paper, a stack of little notebooks people have given me, a stack, all this crap. And I happen to grab this one, and it's from Sempra Energy. I'm not even sure where this came from, but it says #be that girl.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, that's so perfect. And then on a pen, I wrote on it 21-day abundance with a little symbol. And it's a great little notebook. And I have so many of these. So yeah, I've been writing the affirmation down there before I do the written exercise. And then during the meditation, we repeat the mantra a couple of times before we go into silence, or the affirmation before we go into silence. And then we have a Sanskrit mantra that we're repeating also. There's a lot of stuff going on there. It's actually a very complete so far 21-day thing, because you're getting all this different stuff. It's not just writing, it's not just doing the mantra, it's not just doing the affirmation, it's not just doing an exercise, it's all of these things. We're kind of hitting it from all sides. But to go back to something you said about the timing and having to do the work, it's like you can't just pull up the recipe for bread and go, I have bread.
What you have to do it. You have to go to the store and buy flour and sugar and yeast and whatever else it takes to make the bread.
Baking soda, I don't know. But and then you can't just have all the ingredients and go, I got them. You have to actually mix them in the right combination, and then you have to cook it, and then you have to wait, and then you have to heat up the oven. Not in that order. So it's like, it is not just this immediate thing, like you were saying, and just like we don't snap our fingers and have bread, it's a process to get there. I think we're more patient with our recipes than we are for food than we are with the recipe for our lives. And we never know when the universe has that oven preheated for us. We just have to wait until the light goes on, and then we know we're ready.
Then we put it in. Well, and I like the program that you're talking about, because like you said, it hits on several different things, right? And we've talked a little bit about multisensory learning and some things like that, as far as the more of your senses that you can activate while you're learning, while you're doing things, literally, folks, the more places it gets programmed in your subconscious brain. So first off, you're already ahead by programming at different places. So it's more likely to come up or come back to you because you're recording at more places and you're actually doing some of these things, right? So the affirmations, saying them out loud, you're saying it, but you're also hearing it when you do that. You're probably reading it, so you're seeing it at the same time. So you've just activated, several different of your senses at that point, because actually as you're speaking, you feel the vibrations in your body as well. So, you're getting several of these things going as you're writing. Again, it's a kinesthetic movement, but you're seeing it as well, and hearing the mantras and saying it. It's kind of a complete package where you're putting a lot of these things together, which is great, because not everything works the best for everybody. But if you do something like this, it's activating several different things, you're much more likely to actually have it hit something that actually does work for you.
Absolutely. And before the written exercises too are really cool. But before I get to that, I want to say two things that came up for me as you were saying that. Have we talked about Masaru Emoto?
Is it the water crystals, right?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what that is, he wrote a book called The Hidden Messages in Water. And his belief was that water and water crystals were affected by positive or negative energy, music, words. And so he would tape or say affirmations to water. And then he would freeze that water and see what the crystals look like. And the crystals that were from the positive messages were gorgeous and symmetrical and really beautiful. And the ones to the negative messages, like, I hate you, I will kill you, Adolf Hitler, all that stuff, the crystals looked terrible. I mean, there was blobs. Now, people in the science world said that's not a reproducible study, so that's BS, whatever you think. But if we truly are 80% water, how are those words and those messages affecting us? The other thing I was going to say was our brains move towards that which we know. Our brain deems things that are known safer than those things that are unknown, even if they're bad. So this is why so many people stay in negative relationships or abusive relationships or a horrible job, because your brain's like, well, at least I know what this is. Stepping out of that into an unknown is scarier. So if you start to know that abundance is part of your life, if you start to know that these things are flowing to you, that you're getting these things, if you make that as a known, then you're going to move towards that. You're going to make different decisions towards having those things that you're thinking about. So that's what really excites me about this program and any abundance thing or any affirmations and that kind of stuff, is we're moving towards those things that are positive.
Yeah. Well, and for some of the people, again, that have tried some of these things, but it's been hard and they haven't really gotten where they want. Again, what Kathy just said, remember, we tend to focus on or want those things that are safe. So if these feelings of lack have been keeping your consciousness safe, quote unquote, then it's going to want to default back to that, right? And so this gets back into some of the ego states that we've talked about before, right? Because your conscious ego state is saying, whoa, no, this is a little different. This is something that I'm not used to. Change is scary. I might not be safe. And when that kind of monkey brain chatter shows up, then, it's harder to do that. And that's why some of this repetition and the other stuff is so important too, because like you said, it's moving us a little bit closer to where we want to be. Now, you take 2 or 3 steps forward, you might take a step back. But if you focus on, oh no, I just took a step back, then you start going back into all those negative belief patterns that you had before, instead of, hey, I'm still 2 steps ahead, right? We should be focusing more on, and that's why a lot of these programs and other stuff talk about, the gratitude and feeling. What was it? What was that one affirmation about? I'm going to see the abundant things in my life. How was that worded?
Today I behold all the abundance that surrounds me.
Okay, so see that affirmation is actually helping you, right, to see what already you have in your life, where that abundance already is. It's another thing. There's your cognitive bias that shows up kind of psychologically as well, right? Because if you're programming your brain to look for abundance, what are you going to find? You're going to find abundance, right? And so
pennies on the street. I mean, as ridiculous as that is, to me, it's a reminder that the universe is abundant and there's gifts everywhere.
Yep. So that's a great one, again, to try to, show how that affirmation is trying to reprogram your brain to look for abundance. The more we're looking for it and that we're grateful that it's in our life, the more we're going to be looking for it, the more we're going to see it. And then this starts to become that pattern of reinforcement, and it ends up retraining our brain to where now we see the positive things instead of the negative. Yeah. But it takes some time. If you've spent 40 years of your life being scared, right, and worried and anxious, it's going to take some time. If it takes a few months, just be grateful for that you're slowly making these changes. Yes. that in reprogramming what it's taken you 40, maybe 50 years to program to begin with. Right. That's still a pretty good win.
Well, it's like weight loss. People are so pissed it doesn't happen fast. And it's like, you didn't wake up 30 pounds heavier. How do you think it come off quicker than it went on? Like, how do you think that works?
Right.
So the first day exercise, which was really exciting, was to write down 50 people, 50
wow,
who have influenced your life and been a positive influence and have somehow gotten you to where you are today. And my first thought was, good God, at 50 people, that's ridiculous. And so I sat down at the trapeze rig, because I happened to be there that day, and I started writing. And next thing you know, I had 105.
Oh, wow. There you go.
And then as the day wore on, like as the next day came, I started thinking more and more people. And what they wanted you to do with this was not just write names, but like think about what that person meant to you. Think about how they affected you, honor them in some way. And it didn't even have to be people you knew. I mean, like I wrote Katharine Hepburn, Wonder Woman, it's like Hillary Clinton, Peyton Leutner, all these people who I certainly don't know, but influenced my life. John Ritter, Carol Burnett, Tim Conway, all the humor kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. But it's like I grew up watching that kind of stuff, and that influenced a lot of my life. Not to mention mom, dad, grandma, because then I started, because I'm such a logical, structured person, I'm like, okay, what kind of went through family members, and then I got stuck for a second, and I went, well, I had 3 neighbors growing up that really influenced me. Oh, and then how about my teachers? Oh, and then there was that kid in school. And then, it just grew and grew and grew and blossomed until I suddenly had, this giant list of people. And it was so much fun to do. And it was also very moving, because I was thinking about a lot of these people aren't with us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to honor those people that I knew were an influence on me, but aren't around. So it's like, no, it's kind of nice too. So it was a very tearful, joyfully tearful exercise, but it was to come up with 50 people who had a positive influence on your life. It was a fun exercise. I went into it thinking, oh my God, this is impossible. And suddenly I had this giant list. So I recommend doing that. It was a really great way to remind yourself of the influence that others have had, and how supported and surrounded by love you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's I've heard of some of these exercises like that where it's 50 or 100, that you have to write down. And again, it's like when people do this, it's like, okay, maybe the first 10 or 20 things, whatever you're writing, are pretty easy. And then people kind of hit this wall, and then, like you said, you started thinking, well, now hold it. I had some neighbors, right? And then it starts kind of going and going and going from there. And that's just a beautiful exercise, again, because as we're trying to focus on those good things, right? For most of us, as an example, right? There's good things, there's bad things that happen to us throughout our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a big T trauma, it can be a little T trauma, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, I bet if a lot of people, when they get frustrated or they worry or they have some of these things that come up for them, it's maybe, and I'm just throwing numbers out there because, hey, we're just talking, right? But maybe there's, been 10 people in your life that really did some things that were pretty crappy, that scarred you in some way. And it's really easy for us to focus on those people and the negative feelings towards them. But if you stopped then and do an exercise like you just did with these 50 people, you realize that there's way more people that have had a positive influence on your life than negative. And if we can hold more space and be more in that area, then more abundance has to come to us again. Absolutely. Right? I mean, another thing that a lot of people do, there's a whole list of different emotions that we can feel. Mm-hmm. From like, and they've even kind of like hooked people up to machines to try to figure out what their energy level is when they're feeling these things. And so something like joy and gratitude is all the way at the top. And other stuff, shame and some of the other stuff is all the way at the bottom. And so, some people talk about using that too as, well, think about what feeling you're having right now and just try to move up the ladder. Yeah. And even feeling bored is better than feeling shame. So if you're feeling shame, again, try to do something to move your energy level up that scale. It's going to help you get closer to where you're at. Because if you're sitting down there wallowing in shame, it's not a good place to be. And if you're in that feeling so much of the time, of course, you're not going to see the abundance show up. Of course. Because you're worried about all this other stuff.
Yeah. And what we see is veiled through how we're feeling at the time. Mm-hmm. So we're going to attract what we're looking for. Oh, and hey, by the way, your name's on my list.
Oh, it is. Oh, I must be doing something right. Well, if I wasn't, we wouldn't be doing this for over a year, right?
It was you made it before John Ritter, so I mean that was good.
Oh wow, that is because Ritter's amazing, and Tim Conway too.
World's oldest man.
And I was thinking about some of the Carol Burnett skits anyway.
Oh,
all right.
Dentist. Anyway, yeah, so, and then just real quick because we're gonna talk again. One of the things was writing down what abundance means to us. One of the things, the second day, and this one kind of threw me, was write down all of your debts: school loan, mortgage, car payment, any loans that are outstanding, and then write down every monthly expense. Write it all out so that you know. Write out what abundance means to you. And then she wanted us to get creative. I didn't get overly creative, but wanted us to draw any version of currency, money, stocks, whatever is, just sort of make it a fun thing. Draw enough money and currency and abundance to pay for all those things you had written the day before.
Oh, interesting.
And I am the worst artist ever, so this is this is me.
You with a little money everywhere.
Money raining down on me, and I'm in a sea of abundance. Yeah.
Well, so here's a funny thing. We haven't done. We'll have to. You may see this again in the future. What's on your desk thing? But one of the things that I have on my desk is a stack of hundreds. $10,000 sitting right here. Now, of course, it's play money, but it's a visual representation of that money. Yep. And again, that's an interesting exercise for you to actually go through and to realize that, there's enough money out there to take care of all of your debts.
Yes. Well, and the other one that I really liked, and this was the last one we had done, I'm only up to day 5 on this, or 5 or 6. It said the affirmation was, from this moment forward, I invite unlimited abundance into my life. And the exercise for the day was to write down people in your life, could be people from that initial list, who exhibit and live a life of abundance. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to be wealth, but who have a life of abundance. And so all of these names just came to me of, even from when I was a kid, we had really dear friends of the family, Don and Barb, who even as a kid, I remember sort of admiring their life because they had this house that was exactly what they wanted. They had this huge backyard with a gazebo and a pond. And I mean, like, as a little kid, I kind of looked to them as, wow, they're really living a good life. And it's interesting because I have a friend, not going to say because in case they ever watch this, but more money than he knows what to do with. But he's not living it. Mm-hmm. He's not fully embracing that abundance. There are so many blocks, and there are so many roadblocks, and there are so much things that aren't in abundance that it doesn't matter that he has all that money. And he didn't make it on my list. He was a huge influence to me, so he made it on that list. But on the list of people who are an example of abundance to you, he didn't make the list. Yeah. So abundance isn't always about financial wealth. There are plenty of wealthy people who are living in lack. This to me was about people who were living their joy, who were living that abundance in all manners of the sense of the word. So that was kind of interesting. Like, I went to write his name and went, no, he's miserable.
Yeah. Well, and because that was a point that I was going to bring up. You actually got to it before me, is that I think so much of the time when people are working on manifesting or, using the word abundance, they're always thinking about money. But abundance is so much more than money. And in fact, a lot of times the reason you don't have the money or the money isn't showing up is because you don't have that alignment in the rest of your life. And having more money, if you're not aligned, if you're not in that kind of mindset, actually hurts you. It makes you, like you said, there's a lot of people out there with a ton of money and they're miserable. And so, there's a lot of other stuff to abundance besides just money. Yeah. So, we were talking before we started, yesterday, I tried to have a little abundant morning for me. And I chose, instead of doing a bunch of work in the morning, I just sat down and reread a book, that I read 6-8 months ago, but I just felt like it was one of those serendipitous type of things where, you know, a couple of podcasts or other things, people were referring to this book again. And it's like, I guess I need to go read this book again. And even the fact of, you know, just sitting there and trying to be present in the moment and realizing, you know what, me taking this 3 hours to reread this book is an act of abundance.
Wow.
Right? Because again, it's like everything else is going to take care of itself. I don't have to be hustling and you know, doing all this busy work. I am abundant in my time, right? That I have the luxury of sitting down and reading a book for 3 hours.
Great.
And that's a part of this whole thing too. So again, those, you know, those of you that are frustrated, it's like, damn it, where's the money? Why hasn't it shown up yet? Abundance is much more than just money. And so try to think about some of these other things and get yourself in alignment. Then the money's going to show up.
Yeah. And I think that's why the first day was, you know, listing all those people, because that's abundance. The fact that I came up with 100 and something people, and I'm sure there's more that I haven't even, that's abundance. I'm surrounded by people who were a positive influence on my life. That's not money, that's abundance. That's people who are around me as support systems. I would love to do an episode on mental bank, which is,
oh yeah,
I love mental bank. I that's one of the things that I believe got me to the level of success I have. I kind of fell off doing it, and now that I'm doing this 21-day program, I don't want to do too much at once. But as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to bring it back and I'm going to teach my boyfriend how to do it. And it's such a great system for abundance and attracting those things you want in your life. So yeah, I'm very excited to do a show on that.
That'll be a future episode.
Hey. Any final thoughts, Jason?
No, I mean, I think, you know, again, we kind of walked through the program you're going through right now. You know, and so again, for people that, you know, if you want to be more abundant and attract more things in your life, you know, here's some different things that work. People do them all the time. We've talked about some other tips, you know, again, about, you know, not necessarily focusing just on money, being grateful, moving up kind of the emotional scale so that, because this is one of the things and probably why so many people think all I have to do is close my eyes and think, right? Is because when everything is aligned, when you're doing all of those other things, then the money just shows up, but you're doing the work beforehand, right? And I've been so amazed at, you know, the times when it's like, you know what, I'm a little tired today. I think I'm going to take an hour-long nap this afternoon. And so I sit down and I take a nap and I wake up and I check my email and, oh, a new person just signed up for one of my training courses while I was asleep. Right. It's that kind of stuff that can end up happening. But, you know, again, if I would have spent that hour instead, you know, buy my course, I wouldn't have sold a course. Right. But because I was in alignment, and again, it's kind of one of these micro, as we're talking now, I'm actually realizing that it's one of those kind of micro things of, you know, feeling like, hey, you know what, I can take a nap in the afternoon. It's okay. I'm still working, you know, 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
Right, absolutely.
It's okay. I have an abundance of time. Everything is going to get done. And so if my body feels like I need to take a nap for an hour, it's okay. The universe is going to take that into account, you know, when you're doing stuff. So doing some of these exercises, like writing down the list, you know, some people are going to be like, well, that's not really work. Well, it is work, folks. and actually doing some of that work is way harder than some of the other work that we do. But when you do that and you get that alignment, then the things start falling into place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We have to give ourselves time. We have to give ourselves space. We have to give ourselves the that positive attitude that I think so often we lose. We get a little downtrodden, we get beaten down, which I totally understand. We've all been there.
Oh, well, and we, excuse me, we still have to do the work.
Yeah.
Right. If I hadn't done the work of putting the course together, of marketing it, of having it out there so somebody could find it, nobody's going to find it when I'm taking a nap.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So you still have to do the work as well. regardless.
Yeah, go out, do the work. Don't just buy the recipe and wonder where the bread is.
You got to actually put it in the mixer and mix it up.
Cool. Yay. All right, everybody. This is great. Go out, be abundant, shoot for those things that you want. Write your affirmations, start doing exercises. The 21-day abundance program that I'm doing is out there online. I got through a friend, there's a whole group of us doing it, but it's an amazing thing. 21 days to build a new habit, So I'm Kathy Gruver. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. And we'll catch you on a future episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. See ya.
See ya.